Today we have a special session with Aeron Moore. He is, let me tell that you are the god of wholesale real estate. I don't want to call it that way. So this is real estate, wholesale real estate, a profitable investment strategy. I'm going to give you a little bit of an introduction to Aeron. He is a real estate investor in GTA. He's an expert in wholesale real estate investment. He has his own company. I put his phone number there with his permission if anyone wants to reach him after. The phone number is 647-557-5979. And without further ado, here is Aeron Moore. Aeron, I want you to share your screen if you want to, and then tell us a little bit of where you started, how you started. I know you have some IT or computer background. Just share that one with us and then move us towards the right direction. So I'm going to stop the screen sharing and give it to you. If I remember how to do it. So you can take over right now.
Can you see my screen yet?
Yeah, I see it. I don't see your presentation, but I see you.
Let me see. Is there probably something I'm supposed to click on?
I think you have to take over the screen because I share it with you. If you go to share a screen on the bottom, I think the icon.
Okay, yeah. Got it. How's this?
Good, perfect. You're on, go ahead.
Okay, and I just, on the right-hand side, you see the video, so I'll minimize this.
Yeah.
Okay, put this somewhere like down here. Okay. Technology fixed and solved. Okay. So, you know, I titled the presentation, it's Lessons Learned from 10 Years of Wholesaling and Flipping in the GTA. I've been doing this full-time since 2008. Before that, you know, I was doing a little bit of real estate investing, had a couple rental properties, that sort of thing. But yeah, maybe a little bit more of a background, like you mentioned. I was in IT, you know, working for a big Fortune 100 company. I got, I don't know what you want to say, sick and tired of it after some years. And, you know, I had been doing a little bit of real estate investing on the side. So I just thought, let's do more. You know, just owning a couple properties, I noticed, like anyone who's owned properties for a while, you know, the equity, the value's gone up, mortgage has gone down. I was a young fellow in my 20s. I had a 2-unit house renting out like rooms and the other unit to other people. So my monthly costs were being all paid for. So I said, this is great. You know, that was after a couple of years of me owning a property, my brother owning a property, you know, so it takes a while to get into your head. You know, I hope for people here on the call, you can get into your head faster, but it took me a few years just from a couple properties to see what was happening. And then I said, I got to do more of this. So I started learning from local investors, you know, learning, you know, in scenarios like this from local experts. I learned about this concept of wholesaling, marketing for private deals, attracting these motivated sellers, and buying houses at big discounts. And I thought, hey, buying at a discount, that makes sense to me. So why don't I get into that? So, you know, I just started as Joe Schmo, knowing nothing. And, you know, 12 years later, it's done well for me. So here, you know, you'll see my investor site, housedealsgta.ca, my phone number there. You know, you'll see, I've been doing this a while. So, you know, if you're familiar with Rain, Don Campbell, you know, I won multiple awards over the years in the Rain community. I got the Player of the Year back in 2015, other Renovator of the Year awards. But enough about me. Okay, let's get into wholesaling. I just gotta, oh, there we go. Okay, what is wholesaling? And, you know, this is we're in COVID times. I'm doing this video talk, so there's not much interaction, but I don't know who's on the call here. I don't know if maybe if you can participate, Ashton, let me know. Like, do people, know much of anything about wholesaling? Are most people, maybe is this a new concept to them? But either way, I'll just give you a quick synopsis. Well, I have a couple things. My company, I'm a house buying company. So I am buying houses from people who, they're typically not looking for top dollar. And there are some creative ways we can pay top dollar, but our bread and butter is, buying fixer-uppers, buying distressed properties. And we are offering people, convenience, speed, just the stress-free sale. And we are buying at a discount. That's our business concept. But what is wholesaling? What is assigning a contract? So I'm buying properties, I'm getting them under contract, and basically investors are paying for these gift wrap deals. So it's sort of like my company and our group of investors are buying properties, and we assign the contract. So for any of you who've ever bought a house before, probably, once you've signed the paperwork, closing might be a month away, it might be 3 months away, but once you've signed that paperwork, you're probably telling your friends and family, hey, I bought a house, but reality is you've signed an agreement to buy a house and you're gonna take possession months away. So anytime between signing that contract and closing, you can assign that contract, which means you can sell that contract to someone else if they want to buy it, as long as the contract you've signed doesn't say you can't. Or, some of these, if you buy from a builder, like new build condos, their contracts will sort of restrict your ability to assign. They may limit it. They may, only allow you to do certain things. You might need their permission or pay a fee to the builder if you assign. But in a private sale or a resale home, there's none of these restrictions. If I get a good deal, if I know an investor who wants that good deal, I can sell it to that investor for whatever price is mutually agreed upon. Now, the question, I remember when I first learned about this concept of buying at a discount, the question is like, why do people sell below value? And why would anyone do that? I would do that. Like Ashton said, I'm an engineer type. I'm a bit of a numbers guy. So I would do that. Why would anyone else? That's a great question. So have you ever wondered where all those bank sale houses on MLS come from? So what has happened to these people, to these families? What's happened in their life to make the bank hire a sheriff, evict that family out on the streets, and change the locks? Because that is what is happening. I have been in houses, people call me in my company, sometimes they wait till the day the sheriff is coming. Just a couple months ago, I was at a property. We got the call in the morning, the sheriff was coming sometime that day, they don't know what time. But while I was driving up, we got the call, the sheriff's there. But the sheriff, the sheriffs are human beings too. They were nice people. They gave them a bit of time. They let me come see the property so I could assess it to give an offer on it. But yeah, while I was there, the locksmith was there. The sheriff walked the people out, changed the locks, and that's the end of the property for that family. They moved into a hotel that day. So I've dealt with all kinds of power of sale situations. I've bought, after people have changed, after the banks kicked them out, I've gotten those calls. Sometimes after I've signed the contract, the banks, kick the people out. I've gotten people back into their house after the banks change the locks. Sometimes we do loans, we give people loans, pay the bank off, get the families back in the house, and do all sorts of different things. But the power of sale, the foreclosure, whatever you want to call it, there's different terms depending on where you are. But that's just one issue. There's, as numerous as there are people, there's a ton of issues, a ton of problems that people go through to avoid, just difficulties in life. And there's going to be all these different reasons why people want this quick and easy sale. Another question on the screen here. What is the price of avoiding stress and embarrassment? I've bought a lot of houses where, the house is just an embarrassing mess and disaster. There's examples where it's like the kids and the pets have taken over the house. The house is just filthy. There's like feces and urine all over the house. Like the house is just out of control. It's beyond the person's control. Whatever their life situation is, the house is out of control and they're in a tough situation. They cannot handle it. If they could handle the cleanup, the renos, all that sort of thing, they would have done it by now, but they cannot. So they're calling for a solution to these problems. And, we are the people who can handle the renos, handle the cleanup. We can, I just recently bought a house in 2 days. That's the exception. I don't promise people I can buy in 2 days, but it just, it worked out a line. My lawyer was able to do it. Their lawyer was ready. So we were able to do that. But, there's many times we're buying in a week, 2 weeks. People just need these quick sales for various reasons. So when we're talking buying at a discount, and I'm also talking flipping houses here. When we're buying at a discount, the house will be used for a reason. We might use it as a rental. It might be a flip. But, those are probably the main two. And, people do rent homes, all these different strategies. People might, move into one of our houses. My father lives in a house that came through our, house buying company. But mostly we're dealing with investors. It's our company, investors who buy our properties. So when I'm talking about competitive advantage, I'm talking about you get a deal, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to flip it? Are you going to rent it? So how are you going to make money on these properties? Oh, and here's a lovely picture with me, my lovely wife, Christina Moore, and there's Don Campbell, because we've got a couple of these Renovator of the Year awards over the years. So just entertaining picture. And then you see a before and after picture of one of our renos over the years. Okay, when we're talking about competitive advantage, let's talk renos. So, maybe you have some reno skills. Maybe you can get your hands dirty. Maybe you can do some painting. Maybe you're good with carpentry, or maybe you're just good with project management and you can manage the tradespeople and all the different skills that are needed to do a nice reno. Or maybe you gotta, you want to be fully hands off. You got to hire everything out. You need a good contractor. So there's all different levels of involvement in a rental project. And, typically the less involved you are, the more it's going to cost. The more involved you are, the less it's going to cost. So, there's no right or wrong, but you got to find a balance. And the question is, how are you going to, given this property, how are you going to make money? So rentals, that's an expense. You got to figure that out. Realtor fee, that's another big expense on any flip. So, my suggestion is marry a realtor, but you can become a realtor as well. Or there's for sale by owner channels these days. You can, list a house on MLS cheap if you want to do it yourself. But, there's always the time money trade-off. Whether it's rentals, realtor fees, there's always that time money trade-off. So what else can be your competitive advantage? How about financing costs? So with a flip, it's typically short-term money, but are you buying with cash? Do you have cash sitting in a savings account earning 0.5% interest? Oh, sorry, what was that? Okay, but different financing. There, people can use money from a HELOC. Right now it's probably around 3% you're paying on a HELOC. You need a bank mortgage, which you can do. You can probably only get so many bank mortgages at a time, and banks are kind of slow. So it has to be the right property to get bank mortgage on. They're typically not going to fund you in a week or two. And there's private lenders. And of course, there's all different types of private lenders. There could be a loan shark. People can buy with their credit cards. There's all different costs of money, right? So what's your cost of money? And is that one of your competitive advantages? So consider that when you're buying properties, whether it's a flip, rental. Okay, marketing and advertising. Like I mentioned, I've got a house buying company. So how do these motivated sellers find us? So we're big, we've been around for a long time, so we've built up a big internet presence. You know, if you're Googling around, you might come across our website, gtahousebuyers.ca. You know, we're doing paid advertising, think you know, Google pay-per-click. We're doing SEO, search engine optimization. Basically, it means when you search around on the internet, we'll come up for all these different searches. But, you know, there's all different online advertising. It's like these days you need a web presence. Mailing letters and flyers. Another, you know, we're talking houses here. The beauty with houses is you know exactly where these houses are. So if you know if there's a specific type of house you want, if there's a neighborhood you want, well, you know exactly where it is. So you can send letters right to those houses. And the type of neighborhoods I've liked to target over the years is it's typically older neighborhoods that have good potential for both rentals and fixer-uppers. So think, you know, those old bungalow type neighborhoods where we can convert the bungalows into a 2-unit property, or they're just older and run down, so maybe we can just fix and flip them. So it's nice to be able to go both ways. Yeah, you know, but there's always, you know, for marketing, there's always pros and cons. Like maybe you're mailing to a neighborhood where it's mostly tenants, so the tenants are going to get your letters, probably just toss them out. If you're really serious about a specific property or an area, you can always look up the owner. It's public records with the, you know, every city with their tax information. You can, if you're so inclined, you can look up and find the address of the actual owner of the property. Marking outdoor signs, probably a lot of people here. You know, I wish I could see a show of hands, but I wonder who's seen some of those outdoor signs, like they're either stuck in the ground saying "We buy houses" or on telephone poles saying "Cash for your house," things like this. I wonder how many of you have seen those kind of signs. And if you haven't noticed them before, I'm sure now that you've heard about them, you'll probably start noticing them. But hey, like it all works. You know, those outdoor signs, depending on the city, there's ways to do it within the bylaws. There's ways, you know, if you stick them on the wrong places, it's against the bylaws. So, you know, they can be naughty. Paying for referrals. My company, for 2020, we're paying 2020, you know, 2020, 2020. We're paying 2020 for successful referrals. We just paid $2,020 recently to a property manager who referred us to a property that, you know, was a fixer-upper and they knew the seller. But, you know, we even encourage people, just, you know, give us the addresses of, you know, rundown houses in your neighborhood. We'll add them to our mailing list, and we'll just mail, you know, just a couple letters to them a year, you know, and we'll put them in our marketing funnel. So you can just send us the addresses of fixer-uppers. We'll keep track that you referred them to us, and if we end up, you know, having a successful deal on that house, we'll give you $2,020. So we like to talk with people about that option as well. MLS. MLS. Right? It's not our primary focus. There's a ton of competition on MLS, but that being said, we have bought deals on MLS. We are coming into Christmas time. I would say Christmas time, January, it's a good time to buy off MLS to get discounted. Usually people who list, say, a week or two before Christmas, that's not prime selling time. So there's often a reason why you're listing your house right around Christmas or New Year's. So you know, it's just you know, it's not a for sure thing, but it's just, you know, something to look into. So there might be more motivation for people that are listing around, like, you know, Christmas in January. It's not the typical prime selling time. So why are you selling your house is the question. Are you motivated? Another thing about paying for referrals, we do like to work with realtors as well, but we're really more focused on the pocket listings, the off-market properties. We love paying realtors. We just bought a property today, actually, a a triplex in Toronto near Woodbine Kingston Road, Upper Beaches area. And this is a pocket listing from a realtor. It's just, it's sort of an estate situation. There's tenants. There's just a difficult situation. It's hard to show the house. And the sellers with COVID, the tenants, they just wanted a quick, easy sale. They weren't looking, their priority was not maximizing their price. The priority was a quick, easy, painless sale. Still getting a good amount of money. Like, you don't pay peanuts for a triplex in Toronto. but we love working with realtors. We say realtors, pay your full commission, double end it, do whatever you want, doesn't matter to us. But bring us the pocket listings, the hoarder houses, the fixer-uppers, just the people that don't want a public sale, don't want all their nosy neighbors looking at the house. There's all kinds of reasons why you don't want a public sale. Okay, but what are we doing with a business of house buying? These are some pictures of houses we bought. Our focus is we want to be helpful. We want to solve problems. Like probably, let's say 80% majority of houses we're buying, they are fixer-uppers. Usually there's multiple problems. People are broke. The house is a fixer-upper. There's other stresses in their life. They would love someone just to buy it as is, take away all that stress. We want to make life easier for the sellers. Like this house up here in the upper left, you see it's all overgrown. You can see the gutters are hanging off the roof. That seller inherited the house from her father. Within, 2 to 3 years, she really let the house go. People like this, they understand they are part of the problem. They realize they should not, like a single person should not be living in a big house. Just because you inherited a house, got a free house, it doesn't mean you have the ability to the capacity to live there and maintain it. So, this is what happens when someone who shouldn't be living in a house lives in a big house by themselves and has no capacity to maintain it. Do they think they deserve, or do you think they expect the highest price, or they're looking to maximize their equity? No, they are not. They're looking for a reasonable offer and someone who's going to take away the problem. And they are part of the problem. Some of the, not all the time, but some of these people, they understand they're part of the problem and they got to get out of this situation. Okay, closing fast. That's one thing we're here to do. Why would someone want to sell fast? The picture, of this kind of dumpy, messy kitchen down here, I remember that situation. That was selling their private lender. Their mortgage was renewing within, I think it was less than 2 weeks. So they wanted to close on a specific day in less than weeks to avoid all these massive penalties. With some of these private lenders, the penalties are outrageous. We're not talking about your friendly neighborhood big bank. We're talking private lenders who, if you don't follow their rules, you're paying big penalties. So we're talking tens of thousands of dollars in penalties. So they wanted to avoid that. And of course, the house is a mess. It's a filthy. It's a dump. It needs a ton of rentals. So there's just this whole pile of reasons why they want a fast sale and as is. So here you see we're buying as is. We handle the clean out and the clean up. Seen a lot of messy, filthy houses, and people have their life situations, and we're not here to really judge it. We're just here to try to help out and find a win-win, and that's what we're trying for. We're not promising to buy every house. We're not promising to pay the most money or anything like that. Okay, so some of the most popular maybe solutions we offer is the fast cash close. That is kind of why, that's what we advertise. That's why people want us. They've got problems. They just want money quickly. We want it easy. We also are quite flexible. Like the main thing, the most important thing to us is price. So things like closing date, whether it's 1 month, 3 months, it doesn't matter to us. We're not moving in. Do you think we ask the seller to leave the house in broom swept condition? Like, no. That's a common clause you see in realtor agreements. I don't think I've ever used that. So that's not the deal here. We get people options, to close sooner, move out later. We do protect ourselves. We'll have a big security holdback because we don't want to be in a scenario where someone's, said they'll move out on a certain date, and then 6 months later they're still in the house and we're fighting a legal battle. So we keep a large security holdback in case there's any problems. But people like that, they can close, get their money, quickly, and then maybe they can take some weeks or a month, move out. Often that gives them time to rent out a place, even buy a next home, and have money, for a deposit on the next house, or first and last, money for movers, all this sort of thing. So it just, if someone's broke, if someone's just stressed out, if they need funds to help with their moving, then it makes life a lot easier. We also give loans. We just gave a loan a couple months ago to someone. So we bought their house. The reason we gave a loan because they were moving out of province. They needed, it was an expensive move, so they needed a lot of money for the movers, and for life. So we gave them a second mortgage, for a month. We just came back to us at closing, and it really, gave them the ability to hire the movers they wanted and do different things, like their first and last at their next house. It's just the solution to the problem.
Aaron, can you hear my voice?
I hear you, Ashton, yes.
Okay, one of the techniques that is there as well is VTB, vendor take back. And these are the properties stay in the market for unknown reason, whatever it is. It's in the market for 120 days or even longer. That's the best time to go and visit either the agent or the owner and tell them why they don't sell. Vendor take back is another strategy I use. Is the owners give you, let's say, a mortgage or a second mortgage, or and you can visit the property, and if it needs some work, you can right there evaluate if this is a good deal for you to take a vendor take back and jump on this deal. That's also another making money strategy.
Yeah, that's a very good strategy, and it's something I like to use in negotiations as well. And you see here on this screen, the fast cash close is the most popular. But often a negotiation strategy I use is I offer them, here's what I can pay, cash out, and I'll give them an option B, a VTB option. Like, I'll use it if they have a very low mortgage or the house is free and clear. I'll say, it's kind of like them being my private lender. Let's pretend I'm doing a flip. So I might borrow a private mortgage for 6 months anyways. So I can offer the seller maybe 6 months, and I'll make the price higher. So it's a way, basically instead of paying a private lender fees and interest, I'll just pay them maybe an extra 10,000 or whatever it is based on the price and the amount. So it's a good way to say, okay, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I know you'd like me to pay you more, so I'll pay you more if you do this, which means if you take a vendor take back, a VTB, and I'll pay you some now and the rest in 6 months or less. But the funny thing is, most people just say, oh, no, I'll just take the cash now and take less. So I like to use it as an option. Part of it is just to make me look generous and to truly give them an option. If they truly want more money and are willing to wait for it, I will give them more money because it can be beneficial to both of us. But you'll find most people just want that fast cash. Now, it tends to be investors, landlords who are more open, want the VTB more, and there's benefits to them, maybe taxation, and they just understand it better. But it's definitely, I've used it many times as a negotiation tool. And it usually leads to people picking the lower amount for quick cash. Another thing we do, it's not that common, but we do sometimes take over the existing mortgage. It's an agreement for sale. The typical scenario has been when people have a high mortgage penalty, so they're in a situation, we bought a couple where they listed on MLS. And it's also typically a slower market. They list on MLS. Because of the realtor fee, the mortgage penalty they'd have to pay, there's no price they're getting on MLS that would give them positive money. So they are going to have to pay from their pocket to pay the realtor fee and the mortgage penalty. So we've come in, we take it over by agreement for sale, where we take over the existing mortgage, and it's an agreement where we we'll however long is left on the term of the mortgage. It could be 3 years, 4 years, 1 year, however long as we agree. What we do is agree to pay it off within that time. So there's benefits to us. Of course, basically it's how we buy with like zero or very little money down. Maybe we'll give them $2,000 on top of the mortgage, but often in these scenarios, we're buying for very close to the mortgage amount. Now,
one thing I would add here, Aeron, is to the audience, don't be afraid of asking questions. You don't know their situation. Maybe they desperately need the money, or maybe there is a time strength there that you may want to use it for your advantage. Maybe the guy is okay to get $5,000 less if you can close it within the next few weeks. You don't know until you ask the question, and you will be surprised.
This all comes out from having good conversations with the seller. So that's a whole nother subject, Ashton. It's talking with the seller and sales with the seller. Whew. Spend days on that. Just because we're talking wholesaling and flipping mostly so far, but just a reminder, and I know Ashton, you're big into rental properties. Don't flip them all. So just, I did a quick look at the, this comes directly from the Tread Market Watch, kind of the average sale price in 2014 versus now. So basically, if you had $3 million in 2014, it'd be worth around $5 million now. Sure, there's little differences on the area and type of house, but just kind of general average, that's a pretty decent way for most people to make $2 million. And even like, look, if you think back to $3 million back in 2014, like it's not that intimidating to own $3 million in rental properties. Like you can think of it as, $500,000 like duplexes. Like think, bungalows in different areas of the, GTA 905, 2-unit properties that are worth about $500,000 back in 2014. That sort of thing. So if you had 6 2 units, then you're worth $5 million now. I'm just talking appreciation. That's not your mortgage pay down, cash flow. So just remember, the guy who's talking about flipping and wholesaling is telling you to keep some rentals. So, and I thought I'd entertain people with some, flips I've done. Here's a Mississauga house purchase, and this, you're wondering why do you want to buy at a discount? Why do you want to buy a fixer upper? I own a bunch of rentals. I flip a bunch. I own a bunch of rentals, and every single rental, even my own personal home, we're all fixer uppers. So I'm a big fan of they call it the BRRRR strategy. So I buy, I renovate, I rent, I refinance, and I keep refinancing over the years. And it all works out great. But so I'm a big fan of rundown properties because I can buy them cheap, I can renovate at a reasonable price, and I can increase the value a lot more. So this example, I bought this was 2018. So these are, because I'm using a presentation I created, I think it was maybe a year ago in 2019. I'm using a couple of 2018 examples. So, this, you probably can't buy this Mississauga house for $505 right now, but that's what I bought for in 2018, $505,000. I put around, these are a little bit estimated numbers, but around 75,000 in renos. Give you the closing costs, renos, carrying costs. We had it for in and out in 4 months. From purchase to closing to closing was 4 months. So gives you total purchase price and expenses. The sale. So here's the sale. That's the beautiful after picture of the kitchen. A nice island there. We listed it for $669. Actual sale price was $762. So another thing, if you're renovating houses, making them beautiful, your sale price is typically going to be higher than any other sale. If you make them real nice, your sale price is going to be real nice. So it's going to be nicer than the average sale, even than some of the nice, decent houses. Most houses that sell are not fully renovated, brand new reno houses. They're lived in, they're updated over the years. So there's a difference. People are paying a premium for these brand new, freshly renovated houses. So we made over 100,000 on this house. That's 4-month flip. So I sold it for we sold it for a lot more than expected. In these hot markets, we often sell. Ashton, I'm sure you see this all the time.
Yep.
If these bidding wars, things sell for a lot more than you expect, and you get a big bonus. That's what happens.
Sure.
I don't always pretend to know it in advance. I don't pretend to be a genius, but I get a lot of these bonuses. And just, these days, I think, the condo market's not doing so hot right now, but the single family houses, the low rise, whatever you want to call it, the ground level houses, if you're selling those right now, I think pretty much everyone's getting big bonuses. So if you're selling right now, you're a genius. You're getting big bonuses. Okay, here's another Toronto house we bought. This was kind of Danforth area near Pape and Danforth. So if you know Greektown, it was close to Greektown. We bought this $702,000. And what I did here, this was one, we're talking mostly wholesale. This was one I would have wholesaled, but I remember I locked this thing up under contract, and I had to get on a plane, I think in a couple of days after. I had to go away. I think I was going down to the US for an event. So I really just didn't have time to wholesale it or show it around to other investors. So I just closed out myself. All I did for this one, I cleaned it up, emptied the house, spray painted it, and listed it on MLS. Just the chosen strategy. I would have rather wholesaled this to an investor. I just, didn't have time based on my travel schedule. So, we had this for 2.5 months. And this is one I allowed the seller to stay a month after closing. So that's why we had it so long. 1 month of the 2.5 months was the seller staying after closing. So I really only had access to the house for 1.5 months. So that gives you total purchase price, the sale. So, and this house, it was also, the exterior was nice from day one. And just the inside was a disaster. It was a mess, and it was a disaster. So, I listed 789, closed it for 809. I had a private lender on it. And, I made 27,000. That's not a big profit. Some people might say that's risky action for a $700,000 house. But for me, it was not a lot of effort or work. It was not a lot of time. Pardon me. So for me, it is what it is. That's what we did. And the funny thing is, the person we sold it to, so a builder renovator, who did a beautiful job, underpinned the basement, renovated beautifully, sold it, let's say a bit over a year later for $1.5 million. Oh. So they made the lion's share of the money on that one. So, in hindsight, so I bought this for 702. I would have much rather, just wholesaled this for something like, 730, 740. I would have rather made 30,000, 40,000, whatever it is, as an assignment fee than going through the motions of, buying it, cleaning it out, listing it on MLS. So this is just, in my business, we have options. Like the majority of the properties, we are wholesaling these days because that's what's most scalable. I just don't have the capacity to buy and renovate, a ton of houses. It's just not my core business model. My core business model is wholesaling to other investors. So I definitely, if investors listening, if you want deals like, typically rental properties or flip properties, go to housedealsgta.ca. You can sign up for our email notifications as soon as a deal comes available. We'll send you an email so you get notified. And that's our core business model. But we're always the backup buyer. If we can't wholesale the property, we're making a commitment to these sellers. We want to offer, we're offering a premium service. The sellers are selling at a discount, but we want to, really do what we say. We're here to buy the houses, and we're the backup buyer. Okay, buying at big discounts. Let's just maybe touch on, why is this so good? And I think we've seen this from our examples, but there's a lot of bang for your buck from many strategies. The long-term holds. I mentioned to you, like all my rental properties were fixer-uppers that I bought, renovate, refinanced. Fix and flips, rent to owns. That's kind of the core quick summary for wholesaling. I could go into a ton of different areas about wholesaling. It's a big topic. So maybe Ashton, would you like to open it up to the floor to questions, or what you have in mind? I could dive into a specific area if people have questions on different areas as well.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Aaron, for your presentation. It was very powerful, very meaningful. Now, this is another strategy, as we talk about it, for real estate investment. And do not go with brokerage. If you are busy during the day or during the week working something else, just schedule, let's say, your Saturday. Just dedicate your Saturday to take your car and just going through different neighborhoods. Try to go to open houses, not there anymore now at this time, but get to know the real estate agents. One of the strategies you may want to use is to collect all emails, and once a month, there are different applications such as MailChimp. Just put all the emails of the agents into that MailChimp and email them once a month. Hey, I'm here, I'm looking for this kind of opportunities. If something's coming up, before you put it on MLS, let me take a look at it. And that's where you can find some of those properties. Now, one of the techniques I used in the past was if you go and print, let's say 1117 magnets with, let's say I'm buying homes for cash with your phone number, anywhere you park, like even if you go to church, when you park your car there, just stick it to your door. Once you finish, just take it out. So anywhere you go that you see exposure to the public, just come out of your car, stick it there as a magnet, and then remove it after. You're going to be surprised how many calls you would get. Or summertime, just print on your T-shirt, I buy a home for cash, with your phone number. If you're standing on Tim Hortons lineup, someone might ask you, what are you talking about? And that's the opening of the conversation. Don't underestimate all these approaches together. You can find good opportunities here and there. And as Aaron said, you never know, you can make a ton of money there. But these are the small approaches, sending letters to the neighborhood, even knocking at the doors. You drive by, you see a house in ruin, in bad shape. You don't know, maybe the old guy there cannot maintain it and he's looking for a way out. So these are different strategies. Aaron, one of ours is asking if you can give your email address to them or your website address.
Sure, yeah.
On the screen, right?
Yes, it's housedealsgta.ca. You can contact us there. And the number is 647-557-5979.
Good. And how many deals you put together every month or every few months?
We're probably kind of in the 3 to 5 month range.
And these are how far would you go?
We're basically doing all over Ontario. Our core is within an hour or two from Toronto, but we're looking at a house in Ottawa, I've done rentals myself in Aurelia, Windsor, Niagara Falls. We're going all over Ontario now.
Good. And is there any quick way to evaluate a property if it's profitable for you or not? I know Dan or Campbell, I was there with Rain for a while. He had his own 10% when you're talking about buy and hold and rent. Is there any rule of thumb that you are looking at a property within a few minutes, you can say, well, it's not worth it?
Yeah. Like typically, well, you got to figure out after repair value. So, these days it's pretty easy with websites like House Sigma, Zillow, there's others. So you can find out what houses have sold for that are similar to the house you're looking at. So, we're looking to buy at more than a 10% discount typically. I'm probably more like, 15, but so you're looking for at least minimum, but really more than a 10% discount. So if, simple example, let's say a townhouse, you see it, some townhouses in a complex, they're all selling around 500. And you're talking to someone and they just want, they say 450 is what they want. Well, right there's a 10% discount. And, if you negotiate with them, maybe they'll sell for 430, 420. And it all depends on the rentals as well. So, a quick formula, it's basically, I don't know, you can take, my no-brainer formula is you take 80% of the ARV and minus rentals, and that's, the no-brainer. I'll buy houses all day long at that price. So it's basically saying you take 20% off minus rentals. It's the no-brainer price. But can I buy at a better price than that? Yes, I can. So that's the no-brainer rule.
Aeron, what is your suggestion for someone who wants to get into this business?
Well, usually, it's for real estate investing in general, but even this business, just, start with one. Start with one deal, one property. You learn with one, and there's all kinds of educational resources out there. You can get a coach, but you probably want to start with some of the free resources on YouTube. There's all different educators out there. So you can start with some free stuff. If it sounds of interest to you, then you can always get a coach or a mentor or something.
Yeah, I think that's very effective. It's not a question of knowing things, but sometimes it's a question of the mindset, fear, doubt. Is it successful steps I'm taking? So in that case, I always suggest get a coach, as you mentioned, or someone that is doing this, and you say, you know what, this is my first time. Why don't I bring the money? You bring your expertise, and then at the end we share it in different percentage. So that's one of the best things.
And what we have helped a couple new wholesalers in the past, do their first deal. If people out there, if you're getting leads, if you're doing some marketing or some sort of efforts to get leads, and you're not sure what to do with the leads, we'll help you. Like, we're in the business of taking leads, analyzing the leads, and working them and getting contracts. So, I've worked with wholesalers. They bring me a lead, and I say, hey, this looks pretty good. We'll go to the house with them. We'll sign the contract, get it signed. We'll wholesale it to our investors. We'll do the deal, and we'll split the profits. And if people bring us contracts, we split it. 60% goes to whoever brings us the contract. We take 40. So we work with other investors. We like referrals. We like contracts. So we're open for business. What we're not here for is to educate people on wholesaling 101 and educate you on how to determine if it's a deal or not. We kind of expect you there's all kinds of resources. If you're willing to put in the time and educate yourself on 101, that's what we expect from you. Like, there's all kinds of internet resources, or I'm sure you can go buy a course from someone. we're not here to teach 101, but if you kind of know the basics and you want help doing your first deal, we'll help you.
Excellent. It's always good to know what you're doing, get connected to the right people. As I said originally, it's very easy to lose money and burn and then forget about this money-making strategies. Excellent. Anyone with any question? No? All right. Well, thank you, Aeron, for coming up on this webinar. It was a pleasure to have you here. Maybe later on next year, we call you up for to share with us another strategy or share with us your experiences. It would be great.
Thanks, Ashton. Pleasure to be here. And I hope it's valuable for people.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate you coming up. Bye, everybody.
Bye for now.
Bye.